Son of a bitch. First thing I'm going to do is pop this protective cover off the DEF tank. I'm going to start by popping off these three 13mm bolts. And with these three removed, just kind of pop the cover down and kind of force it to the outside of the vehicle. See, these things break pretty easily. That's an old crack. And then coming around to the outboard side, you'll see there's a couple little tabs protruding through it. You just need to slip it up and off of those. I'm actually going to pop this running board off of here just to get a little bit more clearance. Alright, with that running board off of there, it's a heck of a lot easier to pop those things out of there. Straps for the DEF tank. If you look up in there, you'll see that there's a T30 Torx up in there. Alright, with both of those undone, come around to the inboard side and just push the strap up and unhook it from that slot. Just like that. You can see it's just a hook that clips up and over. Alright, with both straps off of there, just lower this sucker down. And as this thing comes down, the wires and everything become accessible. I'm going to start with the outlet tube. This little clip can just get popped up off of there, and it'll let you kind of wiggle this thing and slide it off. Instead of unplugging all these wires, I'm going to do that out on the floor. This main plug up here can be released. This cam lever needs to fold back, but to do that you need to squeeze on both sides on these little black tabs towards the back of it. It allows you to fold this cam all the way back and release this whole plug. Around the front edge of the DEF tank is the fill hose. Just pop that hose clamp off of there. If you squeeze it all the way, it will lock open in the fully open position with that little tab there. Pry that fill tube off. Pull that thing off the end. And that's about it. That comes on out. As this thing comes out of here, there is one last hose on it, and if you squeeze these two gray tabs together on either side, it'll release and pop off of there. Then you're just left with this last electrical plug. And then for this last plug, you just want to slide this lock back off of there, and then you're supposed to be able to just squeeze down right here, but it helps just to feed a small flathead in there and release the tab and pop it loose. It's just this little clip in here. And now to access the collar with everything in there, just got to pop off some of these little zip ties to get this felt cover off the top. Those release, this will pop off of there. Alright, now we've got access to the pump, but before we remove it to swap it over to the new unit, I'm going to blow off all this dirt, everything, all that crud off of there just to keep it from falling into the tank. I'm just going to go around and clip off the rest of the zip ties, holding the harness to the cap. Okay, with all the wires free, I'm going to go through and remove these three 4mm Allen head screws. Now with these three screws removed, I can pop the pump off of here. I'm not going to unplug any of the wires. I'm just going to kind of pop it up off of there and lay it over to the side. Just going to kind of gently pry this up off of there. Lay it over to the side. Now with the pump removed, I'm going to unplug the harness. So start with this one here. If you pull this lock out, it's actually kind of a cam lock. Pull it out as you're pulling the plug off of there. And the next one's pretty straightforward. Slide that TPA back. And then push down right here to release it, but it's also easier just to pry up from the inside and release it. And now to release the plug from the tank, just slip a screwdriver up underneath there, pry down on the tab, and slip it loose. Before I release that ring, I'm going to give it one last touch up. Just going to rotate this vent inward so the ring will clear it. Rotate it counterclockwise. One more touch up. Now I'm just going to check its reflexes. Pop it loose. And pull it up and off of there. Now I'm going to pull the boot out. And remember what you're dealing with here. This is DEF. It's pretty corrosive stuff. So definitely wear some gloves and don't splash it anywhere. Have a drain pan handy. I'm just going to slip that up and over the top of the cap and set it in my drain pan. All right, with that boot out of there, I'm going to reach in and rotate counterclockwise on the lower assembly, popping it loose, and pull it out of there. Set that sucker down in the drain pan too. All right, same thing. I'm going to slip the new one in, and if you look at the little tabs on the bottom, they're clocked. These two are closer together than these two. It'll only go in there one way. Set it in there, pop it in its slot, and give it its little lock in. Same thing, feed that new boot on down into its spot. And as you're feeding that in there, just make sure that it goes around the outside of that reservoir that's already down in there. All right, with that boot down in there, slide the top back on. And the new ring. Pop the filter on the new vent. And slip it into place. I'm going to plug this one in first. And then slip it into place. And that one with that cam lock on there. Kind of push that cam in as you plug it in. Now to put the pump back on, make sure these nipples are nice and clean. And it came with a package of 3 new screws and 2 new gaskets. The large gasket's already in there. The small one is not. So I'm going to pop that into place before flipping the pump over into position. Then just fold the pump over, pop it down the same way it came off. Make sure not to smash down any hoses or wires. And tighten down those 3 screws. Doesn't have to be super tight, just enough to hold those gaskets down. One thing to be mindful of is not mounting the pump on there so that the outlet nipple is facing the cover. So I'm actually going to unscrew this, loosen the collar, and rotate it just to slide them out. All right, that angle looks a lot better. And now for the zip ties. See, they have this fancy little clip on here. So what you do is you slip it on and you slide it down that little rib until it snaps over the end. And put a couple in place for the felt cover. Pop that cover back on there. Zip it down. All right, well, that's about it. Installation is the opposite of removal. Hope this video helped out. Thanks for watching.